March 8th, 1997, Biggie Smalls was in Los Angeles promoting his upcoming second studio album, prophetically titled Life After Death. He attended an after-party at the Peterson Automotive Museum following the Soul Train Awards. And by 12:30 a.m., the party had been shut down by the fire department, and Biggie Smalls and his fellow Bad Boy Records entourage had made their way to the exits and into their waiting GMC Suburbans on their way back to the hotel. At around 12:45 a.m., the Suburban carrying Biggie Smalls was stopped at a red light when a black Chevy Impala pulled up alongside it, and inside, an unidentified man dressed in a blue suit and bow tie rolled down the window, drew a 9mm blue steel pistol, and fired into Biggie's SUV, striking the iconic rapper 4 times. Biggie was rushed to a nearby hospital, where he was pronounced dead at 1:15 a.m. Biggie Smalls was only 24 years old. On March 8th, 1997,
All right. We are live. That was awesome, and I think it worked. Welcome, everybody. Will and Elise, welcome to our live event podcast here on LinkedIn Live and YouTube Live. We are live.
That's great.
As actors and casting agents in your life, you've probably heard that before. So you have done this many more times than I have. So feel free to offer advice as we go on.
You're doing a great job so far.
Yeah, just keep it up.
Thank you. You're a great actress for saying that. Yeah. It really seemed very genuine. So that's cool. I love the countdown. And my brother taught me that. And so this is episode 6. And unfortunately, brother Matt Zembruski, this is a Zembruski Brothers podcast or live event. Matt can't make it today. But I do, you will see him in a few minutes. He has a question for you all. So this is a collaboration of brothers. So I'm with Hospiamo, and Matt is with Agile Game Changers, everybody. And please check us out, hospiamo.com, agilegamechangers.com. And we're going to jump right in. So our special guests are famous podcasters and famous for many other reasons. We can actually say live from Hollywood, right?
Live from LA.
Live from the Valley.
From the Valley, yeah.
Live from the Valley. Okay, cool. What everybody saw in the beginning here was Will Cannon, and again, Will Cannon, Elise Buedel. That was from season 3 of your podcast called Killer Heart to Hearts.
Right.
And I have I'm going to put that on here. Okay. So Killer Heart to Hearts is available on all podcast platforms. I looked them up, and you are literally on every single one of them. And I think I saw like 30 of them. So it's like, if you're having trouble finding it, then you're doing something wrong. Linktree is the site to go to. So Linktree, linktr.ee/Killer Heart to Hearts is where you, if you're not familiar with podcasting or listening to podcasts, you can find all of those platforms there, and you can find Google or iPhone, whatever you, or iTunes, whatever you may have with Spotify. And then killerhearttohearts@gmail.com is a great way to connect with Will and Elise. And we're going to get to that immediately, because we have a pretty cool thing that we're doing. And that is, I'm going to allow you to say something about Killer Heart to Hearts real quick, and then I'm going to talk about what Hospiamo is going to be sponsoring in this little contest that we're doing.
Yeah.
So welcome, and thank you so much for spending the time here and talking about the podcasting world and starting one and going through 3 seasons and now almost 4 and doing it together and all the ups and downs and beauty that is that you've created. So thanks for being here, and how are you? And tell us what's happening with Killer Heart to Hearts.
We're great.
Wow. Thanks for having us. Like, what an intro. That's great. Kind words.
I could go on and on. I can go on more if you want.
Please do in that case. No, things are great. We just wrapped up season 3. We released the season 3 finale just on Monday. So that's the end of season 3. That makes 39 episodes that we have done this far, and we can't wait for season 4.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're a true crime podcast. The first 2 seasons were general crimes that we found really interesting. Season 3 was basically any crimes that were famous people, celebrities. And then season 4 was going back to our main.
So here's this your cool logo.
Yeah.
And some nice photos of you. We're going to get to that because you guys look very polished and beautiful here. And like even IMDb quality.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with this. As I make fun of myself very often about learning Canva earlier this year to try to get this thing all done. But this is not normally what our intro or banner looks like. This is in your honor. We haven't had 665 other episodes, but this is episode 666, but it is actually episode 6. And we are not live. We are actually dead. Hospitality honoring visionaries and people who move. So I'm going to take that down because we have a video question for you. But first, I will say that anyone listening here, I'm able to kind of see on the side for comments. And so if you're on LinkedIn Live, if you're on YouTube and on Facebook also, and you make a comment here, I will see it. So here is John Cardonia. Gave you a nice little clap, clap,
Hey,
clap.
John.
We have a famous person, LinkedIn user.
Oh, the LinkedIn user.
Says hi, everyone.
Hello.
Isn't that fascinating?
Hello.
Yes.
Thank you, LinkedIn user and John Cardonia. So anyway, you can see that John and our famous LinkedIn user have said something that I will keep an eye on. Now, what we are inviting people to do that we've never done before is a bit of a contest here. So with famous podcasters of Killer Heart to Hearts, just finishing up on season 3, you are beyond, 40 episodes now?
I think it's about 40.
Yeah.
About 40. So that's congratulations. That's amazing.
Thanks.
We've heard about pod fade. I don't know if that's a word or not, but we've heard about that there are almost like opening up a restaurant. Many open up, not many get through the first year, not many even get through the first season. So the fact that you have 3, it's almost like having 3 restaurants, very successful restaurants, which is very rare. So it's really cool. As a way to interact with our millions of fans out there, if you are here and you are on LinkedIn Live or YouTube or Facebook, type in not just a comment, but Will and Elise are preparing to write the topics, I guess, what you might say, or the cases that you are exploring for Killer Heart to Hearts season 4. And you haven't decided which cases yet. So there's an opportunity for our listeners and viewers out there to make a suggestion.
Yeah.
Right. So Hospiamo is going to sponsor the one that you choose if you choose one here live. So we are going to sponsor $500 to the production and editing and for the time. So
that's amazing.
If you get a bunch of junky suggestions, there's no obligation to offer a win, but we'll sponsor something anyway.
Yeah.
But let's see how that goes. Okay. And thank you. That's really generous that you guys are opening it up to ideas and cases.
Oh yeah.
Before I do a quick video question, let me just ask you real quick because that is a basic question about how you determine which cases to focus on. You decided that season 3 that you finished up on was celebrities or well-known or famous cases of true crime, and then the previous 2, like you said, Elise, was cases that you found. How do you search? How do you look up, and how do you get inspired about saying like, oh, that's something that we're going to hook our fangs into, right?
I mean, I will say that both of us, the reason we started this was because we're so interested in general. So I think the first season, a lot of those cases were actually cases that we had an interest in for many years. And we were like, this is our opportunity to explore them, dive into them. And once we started telling people that we were going to be doing a podcast like this, we did start getting some people texting us like, do this one, you have to do that one. There always has to be an element of her. But I will say that we did do one case which wasn't necessarily murder in the sense that you think. We covered Brittany Murphy last season, and she was not murdered, but you think that maybe her husband had an element to it, that maybe he assisted in her death.
Yeah,
and that's Brittany Murphy.
Yeah,
right.
Like the angle
Elise
that one was, a person can be the driving force behind someone's death without actually killing them. And we feel like that's the way that Brittany Murphy story panned out.
So if there's any cases like that, we are open to them.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I just got a comment here from Mark Alvarez, hotelier extraordinaire here, and he said that there's an echo when Elise and Will are speaking. So what you had found, there might be an echo that's that people are hearing out there. We're just going to have to figure it out. I'm not sure how to fix that. I'm not hearing it, and you said that you might be hearing it.
We
definitely are hearing it. Yeah.
So I apologize
maybe
if
that's
distracting. That's what I'm hearing.
Gary Richard just said it happens when someone has 2 open links. I don't know.
Open.
It's possible that that's the case. I am going to just thank you, Gary. I'm going to take a quick 10 seconds here to just look at if I possibly have any open links.
Okay.
As a hospitality and hotel guy, usually it's my fault. And
yeah, I'm trying to see if we do on our end, because if you're not hearing it, and I'm not hearing it when you talk, but I don't see anything else open on our end.
You know what? I think I may have found it. Can you, Gary, if you're still listening, you guys talk a few minutes.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Adam.
Oh, I still
hear it, but it's not as pronounced. And I did notice before that as it gets going, the echo gets worse and worse. Like the echo gets louder as we're talking more. And I'm still hearing it now.
Yeah.
You are still hearing it now? Okay. What I had noticed was that I did have a YouTube link up, And I think that because we are YouTube live, that it's that is what's happening there. So thanks for your patience, everybody. We are going to continue on, and hopefully maybe we'll just keep our answers short because you said it gets worse and worse. But I am going up here and trying to log out of any open windows. I will tell you, if you are listening here and you're curious about doing podcasts, which I hope that you are, things like this happen. And we are using what's that?
You just got to roll with it.
You got to roll with it and learn as you go, which actually we're going to be talking about a lot. So we're on a platform called StreamYard, which I have kind of fallen in love with. This allows us to record and live and then stream to multiple platforms. And I can tell you that the any audio or video challenges that I've had, it was usually my microphone or the fact that I, had some other link open, which I probably did. So Mark Alvarez said it's good now.
Good.
I'll pop on Mark. So hey, Mark, thanks, man.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.
It's good now. And Mark, you're speaking for millions of fans out there, so you better be right. Thanks, Mark. And thank you, Gary, for the comments there. That's very generous and helpful, you guys. So let's just jump up and see what's next here. And thanks for talking about the origins there. So as stated, my brother Matt couldn't make it today, but he did prepare a video question for you. So I'm going to play it.
Okay. All right.
Hi, Will and Elise. Sorry I couldn't be there in person, but video is the next best thing. Can't wait to catch up and catch the entire recording of this interview session. But to get things started, I'd love to hear your answers to two questions. First of all, how did you come up with the name Killer Heart to Hearts for your podcast series? And secondly, as a bonus question for extra points, who created your epic logo for the podcast series?
All right. I'll let you want to take the first one.
Yeah, I have to give a huge shout out to my sister Bronwyn for that. I have two sisters, and when I told them that we wanted to start a podcast, we actually went out to lunch and just brainstormed a bunch of names. And as soon as Bronwyn said that one, I was like, that's it. Because the angle that we wanted to go with our podcast was that we were going to talk about the case itself and then have a discussion. So a heart-to-heart conversation about this case. So it just was really fitting.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. It's a heart-to-heart conversation around
Killers.
About killers.
Right.
Romantic,
True
right?
crime. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. For the
and
logo,
very nice. Yeah. How about for the bonus points, as Matt calls it?
For the logo, our initial first two seasons, we had a different logo.
Shout out to Canva.
That's yeah. We used Canva, and we used a photograph that I took in a park, and it was kind of like a creepy, misty photo. And we used that with like a heart graphic and some red blood, and that was our logo for the first two seasons. But Elise and I made a conscious choice to try to up the ante with each subsequent season, to try to always be improving and polishing what we built upon last season. And one of the things we chose to do this season was to do a new logo. So I actually contacted a guy on Fiverr, and I sent him our current logo and some kind of like theme, tone, buzzwords, colors that I wanted to use, and kind of just like an overall general tone of the logo we were looking for. And he came back with this, and we did very minimal revisions of it. He took all of our notes and created this for us, which we're just in love with.
That's really cool. You went to Fiverr, and so you hired an independent contractor that was good at what they do, and so you brought love that. And I love this logo.
It's great,
Very
right?
deep. Yeah, deep. Just scary enough to give me the chills to want to hear more. You got the little hand over here. It is a yeah, and it's love it. And so Matt, thanks for the asking that question.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
So Matt talked about, or Matt, the question is around, how'd you come up with the name and the logo, and generally speaking, some of our previous guests and also the people that Hospiamo feels that we represent are the workers, the line level servers in hospitality, hotels, restaurants, and the leaders and the managers. They are probably the most vocal when it comes to expressing the things that they want to hear about on these episodes. Many of them have already been special guests. One of them is Evelyn Barnes Willingham, who also did a video question for you. We're going to get to that in a minute. But a lot of them are curious about like the origins, right? So the topic, generally speaking, that they say is, I can't do that because, meaning if somebody says, hey, I want to have a podcast, they see you in this booth and the music and your voice and your microphone, and it looks really cool and posh. And that's season 3. And what I have said is that, listen, let's ask Will and Elise if it was always like that. And so we are also going to get to that a little bit. But you, in our green room interview, said some things that I thought were pretty fascinating. You said, bare bones, figuring it out and making do with what you have. And so, and you also shared a picture here that I'll share again here. So
that's where the magic happens.
So when you talk about figuring it out and making do with what you have, describe what this is. And
right. So this is COVID. During COVID, I decided to turn the bottom half of my linen closet into my dog's house. So I took out all the shelving and I put in a dog bed and I put up little dog pinup pictures. And so that's where he hangs out. And then as COVID went on and, Elise and I got together and we decided that we wanted to do a podcast. The first way we tried to do it was sitting at our kitchen table. It did not work. The sound was just too echoey, too, like in a tin can kind of a feel. And we immediately knew that wasn't the sort of product that we wanted to put out there. So we had to sort of think outside of the box. And since I had already converted the lower half of this linen closet into a doghouse, it was only, logical for me to convert the upper half of it into a sound booth.
Very cool. So is this where you were standing when we were watching you with the Biggie Smalls?
Yes.
Yeah.
At the start. So that's where you were. And so this is where you live.
Yeah, this is our hallway in our apartment. Yeah.
Very cool. Nice, because if I'm watching your Biggie Smalls, for example, the episode, you never know it, right? It looks like you're somewhere in a music recording studio,
right?
So it's pretty cool. I love seeing that because it means it just encourages me to I'm here in my house, and I got the background here, and I probably should spend more time thinking about that, but I don't. But it does. Sharing that means a lot because it means it doesn't have to be perfect, but you just went in and figured out because you had a determination to say, we're going to do it and let's figure it out.
Right. Like,
love that.
From the beginning, this podcast has been for each other. Like, we do it for ourselves. We both come from performing backgrounds. We're both storytellers. And we were both craving creativity in our lives on a regular basis. So, when we first started dating, we quickly found out that we both loved like Dateline and true crime and all that stuff. So it was only natural for us to want to venture into the podcast realm. And we just had to do what we had to do to be able to have a product that we were proud to share with people.
Yeah, and I think that that's
cool.
because we did listen to a lot of podcasts that the quality wasn't as good as what we had wanted to put out there. And we were like, okay, how do we, our apartment is very small. We don't have a lot. We're in LA where, it's a 1-bedroom apartment. And we were like, if we're putting something out, we need it to be of quality that we're proud of. So we actually tried, I think, like 3 different scenarios until he decided, he was like, we're going to make Buster's Attic our podcast studio. And it worked.
Yeah.
Is Buster there with you today?
He is.
Yeah, he's sleeping right
Is
now.
he being? Oh, really? Oh, he's being good. I will not say his name.
Yeah.
As long
Hopefully
as
the echo
Amazon
problem
guy,
won't echo.
as long as the Amazon guy doesn't come, we're good.
Yeah.
So.
Well, going back to what you had mentioned about season 1, right? Or the origins. One of the episodes that really touched me. There were several of them in that season 1, but it was about Molly Bish, and we're from New England, and I remember. I wasn't from there, but I was, in Connecticut, and I remember that. And then I listened to it, and there was like 98% of that story that I was not aware of. And I'm going to play a quick clip of that because this is also, Elise, your intro that I also fell in love with, which is how you announce Killer Heart to Hearts and the music. And it reminds me of that deep kind of red logo. So I'm going to play it real quick.
Molly Bish was just 10 years old when she wrote a letter to the parents of a missing girl, offering them love and compassion. Almost 7 years later, it would be Molly's family that would be in need of the same support. This is Killer Heart to Hearts.
Yeah.
I love that. And you still do that today, right? You still do this is.
Yep. That was
Killer Heart to Heart with that music.
We have not changed that. So we've improved upon other aspects, but we've kept the intro.
Love it. Yeah, I love it. So I'm going to ask a question. I hope I interpret this well enough. Gary Richard here. Interestingly enough, he asked the question here, how challenging is it to be an unbiased journalist, yet not to overstate your own view? And so also the topic, thank you, Gary, very much. You're also talking about very sensitive things. This is true crime. So there are families involved. And you have an opinion about those things, and you have a heart-to-heart conversation about those things, and that's what it's beautiful. And but it's got to be a fragile kind of fine line where you can sometimes fall over one way or the other. But regarding the Molly Bish episode, but also everything that happened around Molly Bish, that was a very local and very call it small town occurrence, but made national headlines and such. How did you dance around that? And
yeah.
Was that difficult?
So Molly's episode was actually interesting because that was the first time that we had the opportunity to actually interview a family member. So I interviewed Heather Bish, Molly's sister. And so you can hear her voice throughout the episode. And I was terrified to put this episode out because it was the first one that I knew her family was going to listen. The others felt there was a distance there. I wasn't sure, maybe if they Googled their loved one's name, they would come across our episode. But with Molly, I knew Heather was going to listen. So it definitely put a whole nother layer on top of that. But with every episode, we definitely try and be respectful. Our conversations are delicate.
Yeah. It's,
Are they scripted in a way? I mean, do you go through a writing where you deal with those sensitive issues together and then you script it in a way that's more respectful than the original?
The actual case is scripted, but the discussion generally, sometimes we'll have questions written out that we want to talk about or topics that we want to talk about. But a lot of times it's off the cuff.
Yeah. Like, with true crime, like especially cases that are solved, the facts are the facts. And this is more addressing Gary's question. The facts are the facts. So it's like, it's hard for us to overstate or put our own imprint on facts of the case. You know what I mean? When it comes to what we add to it would be in those discussions where we discuss possible motives or what might have led somebody to do that. What might lead somebody to think that killing his family is easier than divorcing his wife. Like, those are the things where we talk about, that might be because of this, because of that. The facts are the facts. So that in a way, makes it easier for us. So we can write the narrative story, rip that all out, where those facts are presented in a storytelling way. And then we'll have a rough outline for what we call discussion topics, where Elise will say, well, I have a question, or I'll come in and say the same. And then that's not scripted. And then we talk about
it's fascinating, and it's very I guess interesting to hear that this is how when your own relationship started, this was a topic that you've talked about, and it continues, obviously, that you talk about these things, but also some of these cases go on and on and on, like the one that you may have been thinking about, the Green Beret killer. I mean, in listening to that episode, it went into a second episode, I think, right? You had two separate ones for that, part 1 and part 2. And then, I wasn't, I had not seen I think they did something on Netflix or Amazon or something. I hope I'm not losing somebody's credit, but I searched for it. I wanted to find out more about it in between your episodes. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to listen to the second part. And then you answered all my concerns or curiosities, but I didn't know it went on for so long. And so it's just nice to hear the origin of you all. And back to that same topic of start, middle, and evolving, I have another question from a mystery guest who may seem or look familiar to one or both or all of you.
I'm scared.
So here this one is.
All right, Will and Elise, you started Killer Heart to Hearts with season number 1, a first episode, and I assume that took you a huge volume of time. How did you create a feedback loop of making it better, making your time as efficient as possible? Did you have like a 3-question debrief, a rehearsal where you then suggested one major change for the final performance? In short, how did you evolve the efficiency of the improvement for your performance?
Right.
Do you know that guy?
Brownstone. Yeah, that's
cool.
That's a great question. We were just talking about this, last night about our earlier episodes and how they differ, from our most recent. And it just goes back to us wanting to improve upon ourselves, and we are honestly out to create a show that we would want to hear, that we would want to listen to. We don't particularly like podcasts where it's sort of meandering at the beginning and, you're talking about your weekend plans and breakfast, and it's fine. That's just not the product that we want to do. We prefer more of a streamlined introduction. Let's get into it, because that's why.
Good. That's a good point.
Yeah.
So it's
So we try to identify areas where we can improve from season to season, and then at the end of the season we sort of take an inventory of how we felt about the season and where we feel we could improve.
So that's that feedback loop that he was talking about. I guess it's got to be constant. So I mentioned Evelyn Barnes Willingham from season 2. She also made a video question for you, and it's kind of about the origin of things.
Cool.
I have a video, but I found out as we were preparing here that her audio does not come through. So I'm just going to show her picture here, and then I know her question, so I will ask it, and I'll mention her. So that's Evelyn, and I think you can still hear me, and so I'll try to. I'm not going to try to lip sync. Thank you, Evelyn. So Evelyn was our one of our hospitality visionaries and people who move hospitality, and she's a powerhouse. She's empowerment focused. She started her own nonprofit called Boss Women on a Mission. She's a hotel general manager in Alabama, and so her question was around the. So she has a large group of boss women that are part of this nonprofit, and they do amazing work, Mississippi, Alabama, and empowering women, people in their community. And so she's being very genuine in this video that you couldn't hear, but she is saying, we want to start some sort of podcast. We want to start some sort of media content that is planned, consistent, and prepared. And her question was, is there anything that she should avoid doing, possibly something that you did early that you wouldn't do again if you had the choice? Something like that. That's what she was asking.
I don't know if there's anything that we feel like we should avoid, but I will say that consistency is key. In just, if you're going to be putting out episodes, I say definitely be consistent about when those episodes come out and all that, so that people who follow you know when to tune in. That's a huge thing, is every Monday people know that you can tune into our podcast when it's on. I mean, we chose to do seasons.
So when would and it's every Monday? You kind of upload it on Sunday night, and then it comes up on Monday, and people.
Yeah. So Buzzsprout is the company that we use the platform that we use to upload our episodes, and then those we tell them when we want it to go out, and then they disperse it to all the different platforms.
Cool.
So one click of a button, they do all the work.
Oh, it's just that easy. Sure. Good. That's actually helpful. So Buzzsprout, it's very similar to this platform where we use StreamYard, and that allows us to not only record, but stream live and things like that. And you just press a button. What were you going to say, Will?
Yeah, I would say just, if you're thinking about starting a podcast, just understand that you're not initially going to be great at it, but you should strive to be, and you should be honest, and you should be open to criticism and open to improvement, and understand that you're gonna get better and you're gonna grow, and that should be the point. A lot of people say that all the earlier episodes of not talking about our podcast, but some people scrub their earlier episodes. Some people go back and they re-record them. We've decided not to do that, because I'm proud of our journey, where we started, and when we're nowhere near where we're going to end up by any means, but at the point we're at, I'm proud of where we are and where we came from.
You should be. And you're talking about resiliency and consistency, and Elise, you also mentioned consistency too, because if you stay consistent, then naturally, it's very rare if somebody stays consistent that they're just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse, and you will get at least the same or better. Whatever better is, whatever good is, it's this journey that you're on. And I've been listening to your and then watching your podcast for all the seasons now, and I will just tell you that it's thank you for keeping them there, Will, and because it's very inspiring to see that transition, that evolution for someone like me, who this is episode 6. We just started this, never done this before in my life, right? My brother kind of threw me into the deep end and said, "Hey, you need to start doing this." I said, "Okay." Do I need a microphone? I don't know. So it's yeah, I would say good on you for keeping them published. And you probably won't get many comments from people saying like, "Hey, thank you so much for keeping that published." But I will say I'll speak for not only myself, but for a lot of folks that do want to. It's very encouraging.
Cool.
And we're inspired by the types of podcasts that we strive to be on the same level with. I mean, that's the other thing that I would say to her is listen to other podcasts that are in that vein so that you can see what works and what doesn't for their podcast, because that's only going to help you. So that's how we've improved is we'll take elements that we hear from others that are similar. And we're like, oh, I think that we can kind of build upon that.
Like for instance,
find like a, go ahead.
Yeah. For instance, the music, like it was only this season 3 where we added musical element kind of like throughout the podcast. And it's just been invaluable because it's just a subtle change of music. You can change the tone of the story you're telling without changing the vocal at all. It's just suggesting a different tone by adding music. It creates a different element for all production.
Yeah, and that you did not obviously think about that in season 1, but you eventually thought about it, and you're experimenting too, because even today, and we are going to start wrapping up, and I will mention that we are also experimenting today. One, Matt couldn't make it, my brother, and usually he's we very much complement each other, and so he's back there looking at comments and stuff like that, and trying to pop the videos up and things like that. So we help each other, and so. And then what we noticed in previous episodes, Mike White from the University of Connecticut, was one that I think both Derek Farley, who I'll mention, and Dave Waldman couldn't make it. And that's okay, because usually they intertwine and kind of connect the stories. But we had to improvise a little bit. And so today we're experimenting by not putting them in the studio and putting off kind of questions from these studio hosts until later when we're finished, which we are finishing up now. So I saw Derek, for example, pop in the studio, but then he popped out. So, and also Dave Waldman, I do want to mention them because they have been, they're also sponsors of this program with Matt and myself. Derek Farley is the public relations agency of record for Hospiamo. He's a phenomenal public relations and media consultant, crisis fixer, as many call him. And so, and Derek is here sometimes to ask questions, and he asks great questions. So sorry, Derek, that you couldn't be here, and hopefully we ask good questions. And then Dave Waldman is a many titles, but an impact investor, entrepreneur, mergers and acquisitions, tax expert, and he's also here in Charlotte where I am. And he's become a very good friend to our company, and he also asks good questions. And so I wanted to mention them as we go forward. So when we are going to start finishing up, and so I'm going to throw out here that I'm going to look at the comments here and see if anybody wrote in any suggestions, and I don't see any. Okay, but we are still going to sponsor something. So maybe I'll improvise a little bit and ask you, have you heard any very interesting cases that you're thinking about for season 4?
We have a list started.
Yeah, well, I've already got 4 of the episodes, because we share writing responsibilities and hosting responsibilities. Typically we do 6 a piece, and then 1 where we both kind of write it together. So I've already got 4 of my 6 cases picked out for next season.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So I have the last question here is what's next for Killer Heart to Hearts, but you just answered that. But do you have any kind of goal in mind? Do you want to have 100 seasons, or are you just going one by one, seeing how things go? What do you guys have any kind of like big goal in mind, or what?
We're taking it season to season, but we don't have any end date in mind. That's for sure.
Well, let me flow that into probably what many people do ask about, and that is the monetization of podcasts, right? And so you have 40 episodes. Is there some sort of like episode length in podcasting that you start to think about monetizing, or how does all that work, basically?
Yeah, I mean, we are starting to think about it for the next season. I feel like we have kind of a base that's really, really good and solid. And so we are going to start branching out, reaching out to sponsors. There's a lot of different ways to monetize in podcasting. So it's just about not getting ahead of ourselves too quickly and seeing what makes sense for us at this stage. So yeah, sponsorship is probably going to be the first level.
Right.
We will eventually have merchandise and, stuff like that, but that'll come.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will. And I will tell you as a compliment, it's very clear to me as a listener that you're doing this. It's very genuine and authentic. And I can hear it in your voices, in your conversations. And even if I told Will that I couldn't even tell that it was scripted by listening to it. It really does seem like there's a natural conversation that happens there. And I don't think that could happen when it's not genuine, or excuse me, or that you're doing it for the money, right? Or you're doing it for, we want to make $1 million with this podcast, and this is how we're going to do it. It's very genuine in how you've approached it. And it's what's kept me attracted to it and very loyal to listening to it. So,
yeah, I think instead of having the goal being to make $1 million, I think the goal should be to make the best podcast that you can, and then hopefully the money will come in after that. But the focus is on making a great podcast that I would want to listen to. That's my focus.
It's hard work. So if you don't love it, then that's where pod fade is going to come in.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of work. We put a lot of hours into the research. And in this particular type of podcast, you cannot be wrong in the facts. So we have to make sure that we're thorough, do a full investigation on our own. And then, that's one thing that we try and step it up each season is the writing.
Yeah.
We are writers, and we want to tell a story in a way that is going to keep people interested and invested. And for example, Molly Bish, that murder is still not solved. So that's something that, we urge people to go and listen to her story. Gary Richard has comments on here. He's actually a guest on that episode. So thank you, Gary. Because he does a lot of pro bono work in helping that family. So
that's wonderful. And you never know, right? You never know the more that you put it out there with respect and honor, something could come about years from now or someday.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really your own journey. You're taking on journeys along with other families that have gone through something themselves, and it really is. I do see the beauty in that, and I do hear it, and so quite often.
And that's how our podcast works. Not every podcast is scripted like ours. Even true crime podcasts often are not scripted. It's just people talking about the cases in the same way that you and I are talking now. That's just not our particular brand of podcast. So it doesn't have to be scripted. It could just be conversational. It's just what you're after.
Heart to heart conversation.
You got it.
Yep.
There you go. Nice name. Well, we can finish up, y'all. I thank you so much for the time. And we are aware, and we haven't discussed it, but this is not a full-time gig for you all. You have other jobs and duties. And out there in Los Angeles, in addition to taking care of Buster, the now famous linen closet dog.
Yeah.
Thank you sincerely. And we got to do a follow-up to, would love to ask you to do this again, maybe before season 4 comes out. And
Awesome.
you can talk about so let's do it. And thank you, everybody. And we will sign off, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank
Thank
you.
Love you guys. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.